It's always great when games get their flowers. After all, behind every title, there are people that pour their blood, sweat, and large portions of their wages into coffee to make sure they get closer towards bringing you their vision. Most of which get a little bit lost amongst the unending tide of new releases that remind us that time is a precious currency, and I barely have enough to pay for sleep. So let's go diving into that ocean today and give some flowers to those sneaky hidden gems that were lost amongst the sea of newly released games. Let's start it off a little melancholic, shall we, with Season, a letter to the future. Don't be fooled by this game's gorgeous and colorful presentation, or its apparent cozy light atmosphere, because behind its thinly veiled code is a story that is drenched in a little bit of that good old existential dread. See, you're a photographer on a bike whom is driven to document the world around you. If you've ever looked at your wallet after purchasing camera equipment or sharing the road with a bike, that's probably enough dread for you, but it gets worse. You see, there's a reason you're venturing and capturing the world around you, and that is because a cataclysm is approaching. This is a strange phenomenon where a period of time, or a season as it's known, comes to an end. And with it, the memory of all living creatures are simply washed away. Thus, in order to preserve the memories of the people, the towns, and all those moments of beauty, you're creating a journal of sorts, capturing images and sounds to answer the question of what it was like to live in your small town and its surrounding areas within this slice of time. This game really sets to sell the message that it is important to appreciate moments in time, because just like the seasons in this game and life, they are indeed fleeting. So live in the moment and spend your time well, because that bank account, my friends, is finite. And now out of the colorful, picturesque pages of Season and into the dark clutches of the Olympic exclusion zone with Pacific Drive. I saw somebody describe this game as Subnautica meets Stalker, and funnily enough, despite its complete lack of Ukrainians, oceans, and Russians, I can see what they mean. Throw away the sea moth, trade it in for a station wagon, swap the water for an ocean of anomalous hazards and radiation, and bam, you've got a real tight-fitting comparison there. In this game, your crusty-ass delivery job has brought you to an area in the Pacific Northwest called the Olympic Exclusion Zone. A large swath of government-controlled land that continually expanded for 30 years before rapidly being abandoned, and then later sealed off by the government after an alleged experiment went wrong. Now, like a moth to the flame and a single man with no companions, it's just you, your car, and the open road. Oh, and an unfortunate absolute metric ton of hazardous anomalies that may or may not have trapped you inside the zone when you went near it. This game's somewhat a roguelite, somewhat a survival game, as you constantly drive your station wagon and lifeline into the ever-changing zone to search for answers, and also, more importantly, how to escape. Along the way, scavenging and improving your mobile fortress with the supplies you find within the safety of your base, which happens to be a conveniently located garage inside the zone. This game just has this special feeling, a lovely sense of mystery with constant gripping tension of the possibility of sudden radiation-filled tornadoes appearing, or unnerving mannequins moving and watching you when you take their eyes off them as if they were weeping angels. If you love the unknown, survival games, and just being a loot goblin while spending a good amount of time on car repair, maintenance, and fashion, I really recommend this one. You know when games kind of compare themselves to others in really asinine and bland ways? You know when a game has a rolling mechanic, therefore everyone compares it to Dark Souls. Damn it, Sharon! Gears of War is nothing like Elden Ring. Alright. So when a Metroidvania claimed to be a Souls-like with a Sekiro parry mechanic, my eyes nearly rolled out the back of my head. But damn, am I certainly glad that I put away the old man yells at clouds energy to give 9 Souls a crack. I actually got to play this one early at some convention that is now only resigned to memory, and it made me want to play more. This game's genuinely a contender for one of the best games of 2024, and easily one of the best hidden gems of the year. This one's a cocktail of cyberpunk, Taoism, Eastern fantasy, difficult ball-busting bosses, solid characters, and smooth-ass combat. It's a jack of all trades truly wrapped up in a really gorgeous hand-drawn art style. To set the scene, you play as Yi, a vengeful warrior of Apocalypse past who has been awoken by a child in a world which is proclaimed paradise by the gods. But you see, Yi was around when this world-building lore took place, so he knows very well that that story is nothing but an illusion that is protected by ancient rituals and full of lies spewed by the deceptive deities. So of course, in an incredibly metal fashion, he sets off on a vengeful quest where he vows to murder the hell out of the 9 souls, aka the 9 rulers of the long-forsaken realms, to end the ritual and thus unveil the truth. This adventure is beautiful, difficult, and just all around great with so little to fault in it, so if you've missed this one on your checklist or never even added it, it's definitely time to fix that. If you're a fan of being caught between a rock and an ethical hard place, boy, Banishers Ghost of New Eden is undoubtedly a game for you. Featuring what I can only describe as God of War-esque gameplay meets Dean and Sam Winchester's Irish 17th century cousin and his wife, Banishers Ghost of New Eden is a tale of ghosts, ghouls, and that trolley problem dialed up to 11. You know that one where you control a train track by pulling a lever to decide who suffers a grisly fate between one person or a group of people? Normally, this conundrum asks you to save one person you care about or 5 strangers by sacrificing the person you care about. However, in this case, it's your 5 best friends and your 5 closest family members trapped on the track, and you're not coming out of this one without wanting to take a long stroll out of a 5th floor window, but in a good way, if that's possible. The scenarios this game puts you in really forces you to delve into the depths of the human psyche, as you and your wife are banishers. Basically, you're like warrior exorcists that bring life to the living and death to the dead by separating the two from one another in case of hauntings. All is going well and good until you're the one being haunted by your now dead wife, who got the spirit special from an ungodly powerful wraith that you were tasked to hunt. Now, unable to let go, your choices are simple: banish your wife and stay true to your oath, or do absolutely everything you can to save her. And you'll be mulling over this choice whilst helping other victims of hauntings and tracking down the wife-who-slaying spectre that looms over New Eden. If I tell you this game made me feel bad for delivering justice to a man that betrayed, murdered, and ate his own friend, I would not be lying. This game just has a brilliant way of doing that. I don't think I ever really met a character that I could comfortably pass judgment on, except a French lady. Not because she was French, I think, but that might have been the least of her crimes. Rewinding a little bit back to the days of 2018, before the Great Plagues and people started spamming the word woke at everything they didn't like, there was this lovely game called Gris. It followed a young girl on an adventure through sorrow. Now, it turns out this studio really loves 4-letter names and decided to crank the emotional vulnerability up to 11 by having another tale following a young woman named Alba, but this time with a wolf companion. So if you've ever seen the movie Red Dog, you may know where this is going. Watch that movie, by the way, if you need a good excuse to clear out the tear ducts. Following a fatal experience for Alba and the young wolf cub, the pair are brought together by an unbreakable and very healthy bond of trauma before setting off to clean the world of a corrupting darkness that's taking a hold of it. You follow this wolf cub from basically birth to its rebellious teenage phase, and finally until it's fully grown. All the while forging a bond nigh inseparable in a dangerous world that the pair will and need to do anything in order to survive. Spoilers? Well, I mean, not actually. The game is about parenthood and raising a life, and thus it has some really deep and impactful moments along with a storyline that's really easy to be invested in, especially when you replace a small screaming toddler with a cute wolf cub. Make no mistakes, this game is beautiful and truly impactful. Neva is not a long adventure, but it will probably stay with you for a long while. Ever wondered what happens to a cat after they spend their 9 lives? Well, apparently they become a badass broom-wielding janitor of the underworld that's tasked with cleaning up its filthy non-compliant denizens by bashing them over the head with that aforementioned broom. This one's called Crypt Custodian, and it's a game that somewhat feels like a children's picture book came to life, then mastered the fundamentals of good game design and added the secret sauce of the internet, aka a cat, to make a fully cooked and really goddamn awesome Metroidvania Zelda-like, as the developers themselves put it. However, unlike other Metroidvanias that often take you several full moon cycles to fully complete, Crypt Custodian is not around for a long time, but it is around for a good time. And in its short run, Pluto, our lovely and unfortunate eternal purgatory janitor, will win you over. This is genuinely another one of those games where it is incredibly hard to say anything bad about it. Everything is just so smooth. The characters are simple but well thought out, the combat is juicy, the story is surprisingly touching, the soundtrack is great, and the familiar sense of nostalgia the game brings is just great. You know what? I take it back. I can say one negative thing about it. That it's just not long enough. That's hardly a bad thing to say. Now, if like me, you have an irresistible fascination with claw machines, but also don't want to give over your hard-earned coin to a limp-jointed snatcher designed to probably cheat you and your hopes and dreams out of acquiring that very large Gengar, you can do it virtually instead with a game called Dungeon Clawler. I have a soft spot for games that take a very established genre and then find a fun way to add a good twist to it. And this game certainly achieves that by gamifying a game, adding another game to the game. This game has levels, you see, well, in more ways than one than simply processing through its levels like a typical roguelite. I say this because your equipment, entire run, and abilities are decided by 2 things in this game. A, what you put inside a claw machine, and B, what you can rip out of said claw machine in the middle of combat. It's like Slay the Spire if you hated cards and somehow wanted a little bit more RNG in that. It's pretty simple, but damn fun. Find items, add them to your claw machine, fish them out, and use whatever you get to both attack and defend. You're doing all this to get your lost paw back because you play as a rabbit with a crippling gambling problem that was so bad you offered up your lucky rabbit's foot whilst trying to get into a winning pot. So, of course, the only reasonable path forward is to continue betting your life and remaining limb on the outcome of more gambling. Seems perfectly sane to me. Now, you could be forgiven for thinking you're playing something like Hollow Knight whilst one full tab of acid deep when you play Ultros. That is because I didn't even know that many colors existed on the color spectrum. When someone asks you to imagine a new color, it's damn well impossible, but this game makes me believe that that is a lie. Ultros is a self-described psychedelic sci-fi journey. Now, if looking at it doesn't tell you how hard they went on that theming, I'll tell you, they went pretty damn hard on it. The psychedelic bit being obvious, but the story... Well, let's just say the story is set after you've crash-landed your ship on something known as the sarcophagus, which is a giant space-drifting cosmic uterus that is stopping a demon called Ultros from being birthed into the universe, courtesy of being trapped inside an eternally looping black hole. I swear you could only come up with that after binge-watching Ancient Aliens and getting completely blasted off your face. This one, however, is pretty neat and a very unique Metroidvania that touches on a lot of subjects such as life, death, karmic cycles, and mental health, all whilst giving you an intriguing world to feast your eyes on and unleash your sweet blades in, whilst cosmic life forms try and feast on your eyes. This game right here, Killer Frequency, was easily one of my favorite games of 2023 with no question. The year is 1987 and you're playing as a late night radio DJ that has recently moved from fame to a small town of Gallows Creek. After getting on the air for your first night, it all takes a bit of a turntable. After you've spun up your first track, it's some bad news, you see. The sheriff is dead, murdered, and all the phone lines to the outside of the city have been cut, and you have been designated as the emergency contact for everyone in town whilst the killer goes on an overnight rampage. So now, instead of just playing music, you're stuck in a game with a mysterious killer that is hunting the residents of the small town, whom ring into you asking for help. This puts you in various tech support-like puzzles and scenarios to keep them alive and keep the haunting butcherer's kill count just a little bit lower. This game had me gripped, with more twists and turns than a drunken snake having a seizure. The game is both horror and comedy, allegedly, although I'd argue a bit more of the former. Anyway, this game really drives home this unnerving feeling of being listened to and watched, all whilst having fun, lovable characters, some of which you may accidentally get killed in your possibly futile quest to keep them alive until help arrives. Despite most of the game taking place inside a small studio, it does an incredible job of making the world around you feel large and alive, even with its limited scale. This, by the way, makes it really terrifying when you finally have to leave the room. It gets so tense. I could probably talk for hours about what made this game so good, but I don't want to spoil it for you, and you should definitely go play it. Rewinding from the 80s to the 50s to round out the list with yet another mystery/detective game, we have This Bed We Made. In this tale, you are no Sherlock Holmes. You're just an incredibly nosy chambermaid that has a slightly bad habit of shifting through everyone's belongings. Of course, you're just airing dirty laundry as you clean out their hotel rooms. This questionable character flaw leads Sophie to uncovering a few, let's just say concerns about the guest that she may have been better off not knowing about. This game has a great way of creating mystery and intrigue as you snoop through the guests' things, with every action you take, including how you clean their room, leading you to uncovering different evidence, and with it, possibly different consequences for our lovely little chambermaid. With how into this unpaid detective gig I got, I almost forgot to even play the part of maid, instead being purely engrossed in speculation, and, well, other people's belongings, lives, and relationships, coincidentally. There are certainly dark themes at play in this game, with Sophie's world turning upside down when her shift begins and she opens the door to room 505. This is the perfect single-day mystery game for people that love piecing things together. With a short runtime of anywhere between 3 to 6 hours, depending on how big-brained you are, it is an absolutely cracking game. Even if after it was all said and done, I found myself wishing I could snoop through a few more people's things. And with that, that's the end of the list. I hope you found a game or a title that interests you, and thank you so much for watching. If you did find a game that you like, or if you just like listening to me yap about video games, it would be a great honor if you could just gently slap that subscriber button for me. And even if you do, or you don't, I will be seeing you, hopefully at some point in your algorithm as I look to invade it a little bit more. Happy trails, friends. Take it easy.